Welcome to Change the World. My name's Guy Dauncey. I'm your host. And if you haven't seen this show before, that's because this is the very first episode. So when we talk about change the world, we are looking for big, bold, creative ideas. There's an urgency around the need for change. Recently in America, half the population said, we want to change the world, and they voted for one person. The other half said, we want to change the world, and they voted for another person. And there's a collective sense that things are not going the way they should be going, that we need more creative solutions, we need a new way of thinking, a new economy, a new approach to tackle huge problems like the climate crisis. So every week, if you tune in at this time, I'm going to be interviewing local people here in Nanaimo and the region who are working flat out with their creativity, their ideas, their imagination to change the world, to bring those big, bold solutions to the table. I live down in the Yellow Point area, south of Nanaimo. I've been an author, organizer, activist all my life. I call myself an eco-futurist now. I recently wrote this new book called Journey to the Future, which is actually a 4-day visit to Vancouver in the year 2032, by when it's become one of the world's greenest cities. And I'm all about finding positive, visionary solutions for the future. So today, my guest is Leo Boon, who has been involved in cycling all his life. Leo comes from Holland. And in Holland, I tell you, they start cycling in the womb. They're pedaling away and their mothers are saying, get this cyclist out of here. They grew up cycling. He also has lived in Copenhagen, Denmark, where everyone's cycling. And he's been riding different kind of bikes, if I'm right, all your life, from one kind of bike to another, and are now a very active advocate for change here in Nanaimo to make Nanaimo the world's, Vancouver Island's best cycling city. What do you think about all that?
Yeah, we try to make it a change, a positive change on the island and throughout the province. And to that effect, we work with both the politicians, with the bureaucrats, with local groups, and a variety of other initiatives that are working, whether it's in the health sector, whether it's in environmental, whether it's just about transportation, whether it's tourism. You know, like there's a lot of things get influenced and that needs some direction at times. So we always try to partner with as many people as we can. That's sort of where I come from.
On a personal level, what is it about cycling? What does it mean to you?
Well, cycling to me means it's an easy, sustainable way of transporting yourself and also how to recreate. So, having grown up in Holland, cycling is just part of life there. We've always cycled and we always walked. Walking is just everything that you do is walking, and cycling make it just a little easier because you can, reach greater distances.
Someone told me that in Holland, or maybe I read it somewhere, 31% of all trips for any purpose are made by bicycle.
For the whole country, yeah. Yes, and for some of the municipality, it's over 60 to 80%.
Wow.
Yes.
So driving a car is the minority thing to do in some of the cities?
Absolutely, yes. So if we would compare it to, for instance, Nanaimo. In Nanaimo, every day we have 880,000 trips per car. In Holland, that would be 160,000, 150, right. 160,000 by bike, and about 20 to 30,000 by car. And that's just because it makes a lot more sense, because a lot of the trips are a very, very short distance.
Yeah. What does it mean? What's it feel like to live in a culture where cycling is the majority way, cycling and walking are the majority way of getting around, instead of us, we all have to get in our car and drive from A to B all the time, right?
Well, it has a lot of implications, so both culturally and socially. So people are working more together. There's more of a togetherness. Even in the street scene, there's more of a togetherness. And there's sort of like a politeness. Like everybody has this little role to play, whether they're a pedestrian or a cyclist or a motorist or like a delivery person, with a vehicle. We all play this sort of little dance of, getting from A to B. And, like in the bigger communities, you reach most of the destinations much faster.
Yeah.
Like in a northern town like Groningen, where they actually divided the city into 4 quarters. For a motorist to get from, let's say, the left, like quarter number 2 to get to 4, they sometimes need to do a long way, where cyclists and pedestrians can easily reach there. If you look at the history of engineering, if you look at how we used to transport ourselves, which was either by horseback or walking or when cycling started, all of those routes are all straight lines, more or less. Like you go there. I mean, sometimes you go along a river, but it's straight lines. Then when cars came in and trains, they followed a certain route and they sort of snaked. Now, if you look at engineering plans and city plans, most of the pedestrians and the cyclists need to go, and even public transportation need to snake all the way through to get from A to B. Well, they make it so simple for motorists to get there.
So I've been a cyclist in Victoria and all my life back in Britain. And I've always had to cycle where I'm sharing the road with cars, mostly without even any bike lane at all. We are constantly never sure who's coming past you at high speed. Simon Whitfield, who's our famous Canadian Olympic triathlete winner, he told me that he was cycling in Victoria, and it's supposedly a 50 kilometer an hour limit, but in rush hour, it's 60 at 70, and these SUVs have mirrors this wide, and he got whacked by a mirror and thrown off his bike. Even as a super aware cyclist, that danger is there. So if we're having big, bold ideas to take Nanaimo and Greater Nanaimo and make it a cycling mecca, what's the biggest things we have to do?
Well, the biggest thing that we have to do is we need to adjust our infrastructure. And what we know. Right now we have designed everything to make it as easy as possible for motorists. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you shouldn't do that to the detrimental, of pedestrians and cyclists, other road users, really, I should say that. And so what we do is that we always make it easier. So traffic really is a system to control behavior. It's a behavior management system.
To stop us all banging into each other and killing each other.
Well, it is, so we have rules. So we have the Motor Vehicle Act, and there it states that if it's a red light, you're supposed to stop. Well, most often that doesn't happen anymore. But those are the type of rules that you deal with. And also you use certain road treatments to have certain behavior. What we have done is we've made the roads easier to handle at higher speeds. Because planners thought that if they make the roads wider, you would have less accidents. But actually what happens is that if you make the roads wider, your vision becomes wider, and you actually, it encourages you to speed.
Sometimes you can't help it. I mean, there's a classic road in Victoria going up towards Willis Point. And it's like a mile of non-stop straightness, and you're doing 70, 80 before you think about it. I got an image here of Vancouver. Tell me what you see happening here.
Well, here is a new set of tools that cities have that they incorporate. These are things that come out of Europe, where they have a dedicated bike lane both ways, and that is part. Like you can't just put those on willy-nilly. You have that as part of a bike network. So when you want to transport people without a car, so let's say by bicycle, you need to have connecting roads or connecting infrastructure. The same for pedestrians. If we look at the neighborhoods in Nanaimo, there are a lot of neighborhoods where we didn't install or design sidewalks. And so as a result, we have a lot of people that have conflicts with motor vehicles because they don't have a safe place to walk. And so as a result, we have a lot of these neighborhoods where people actually struggling with their health because they can't get out for a walk.
So I got another image here, which is, I'm not sure which cities it's from, but to me, cycling on a thing like that feels really safe.
Yep.
And it's two-way cycling, but you can see the other bikes coming, and you've got that sort of landscape barrier between the cyclist and the traffic.
Well, very, in Holland where I grew up, so very early, both the politicians and the bureaucrats and the planners and the engineers, when they got together, they immediately realized that with the uptake of more cars, this is in the early 60s, you have to remember, since the Second World War, in the 50s, our wages were rising by 250% every year.
No, not 250% every year.
Yes.
Well, more than doubling?
Yes. So that our wage scale went really up dramatically at the late 50s.
Wow.
And so all of a sudden people had disposable income.
Yeah.
And so cars were a very logical step for people to have. Unfortunately, our road system was not designed for all of this influx of cars.
Yeah.
So then we started to see all of these incidents happening between other road users, whether it were pedestrians or delivery trucks. A lot of deliveries were still done by horse and cart or other ways of transport, by hand cars. And so they come up with ideas that we should separate the slower moving vehicles from the fastest. So we came up with a whole infrastructure of having separate bike lanes and separate pedestrian networks.
So if you look back at this image here, that would have been one wide road with cars going both ways. Now look at the sidewalk as well.
Yes.
It's really wide with the trees separating it.
Yes.
How many cities in Europe are like this now?
Oh, quite a lot. And the reason why you want to have wide pedestrian sidewalks, because it encourages people to come out of their cars and to walk. And it also encourages people to socialize, but also to do economic activities. So sit at cafes or go shopping. Nobody's going to go and shop. Here we all go to the mall, and why do we go to the mall? Because it's a safe place to be. Where, like here in Nanaimo, where we have to have people saying, oh, we need to revitalize the downtown business. And I said, it's very easily done. Remove the cars out of Commercial Street. And you will have an enormous amount of economic uptake.
And I can predict to you, because I know that what's happened in every city in the world, that the merchants are saying, oh, without the cars, we'll lose our business. But in reality, they get more business, right?
They get more business. And there is lots of studies and examples where that Bloor Street in Toronto is one example of that, where all of the merchants said, oh, you can't take one parking lane away because, like to put in a bike lane. And within a year, they asked for more because they had such an uptake in the amount of usage. And I always explain this to motorists, to retailers. When it says, you never ask about how many people come by motor car. You always talk about you need X number of foot traffic.
They're walking in through the door on foot, not bringing their car into the shop.
You're always talking about foot traffic. So you need to have more people in by foot to come into your store. So, and this is what I showed them. I showed them a slide, and I said, this is your street. You see there's parked cars on either way. And this is a picture taken from a car. This is the picture at 50 kilometers an hour. And he says, this is the vision of the motorist. They can see that much.
So when you talk
they can just see the edges of the parked cars. They could never see that dress in the window.
That's right. When you talk
they can't see this big sale sign, right?
So when you talk to businessmen and businesswomen, say in the Chamber of Commerce, how do they react to this idea that you want to get the parking off the street and get cycling onto the street?
They're very reluctant. But I mean, look at it. We have cruise ships coming in, and there are people on the cruise ships day, if that's a Saturday or a Sunday, they're not open. And I go, okay, are you a retailer or not? And they say, well, we, like for instance, the Downtown Business Association says, well, we can't get our members to open up. And I said, just ask them to call their Visa or MasterCard merchant account and ask them, when are the most retail transactions done?
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what their answer is. It's during the week after 6 p.m. and during the weekend, it's from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. and 2 p.m. to 5 p.m.
Let me change to another topic, which is to have a cycling culture, we need to get the children on board. Right?
Absolutely.
So here we got an image of a kid on a bike. What goes on in your brain when you see this?
Hey, what a great opportunity to have this child learning, like how to ride a bike properly and get enjoyment out of it, and also working on their health, even though they're not aware of it, but they're working on their health.
So the parents might say, but it's not safe, and you've got to catch-22. How do you respond to the parents when they say, well, it's not safe to have my kid at this age cycling?
And that's an issue that we often have when we talk, for instance, to Safe Routes to School, which is a program that we like to work with the city of Nanaimo, where, like for the last 20 years, we've seen an enormous decrease of children cycling and walking to school.
Yeah, a decrease when we need an increase.
Right now, 91% of all kids in Nanaimo are being driven to school, either by bus or by the parents.
And the most dangerous time is 3 o'clock in the afternoon when the mothers are all chasing and pushing around. And
mothers or fathers, either way. And so, one of the reasons, they say, it says, well, why don't you come? Oh, it's so dangerous. And I said, well, it's because you created your own extra traffic because everybody's dropping off their kids.
Yeah. How many safe routes to school does Nanaimo have?
There's only 5 out of the 33 schools that we have.
So 28 schools have not done this. Why don't you name, can you name those 5 schools? Or can you remember which is the best? Which school is?
I know it's Quarterway. I don't know all 5 off the top of my head.
But we should be proud of them, right?
And we should be proud of them that they did that. But they did this in 2005. This is 11 years ago. We really need an upgrade.
So how do we, if we assume that we're going to get more safe routes to school, and we're going to then, how do we teach the children safe cycling skills? So
there is lots of teaching material available. We have an entire curriculum that we have proposed for School District 68. We're hoping to develop one for School District 69 in Oceanside. And in there is all elements of the things that kids need to learn, from how to walk properly in their neighborhood, how to cycle properly, like talking about traffic rules.
So how many kids percentage-wise are doing cycling education? As a percentage of all the kids going through school?
Oh, less than 1%.
Less than 1%. What would you say to the idea that there's a change in the school curriculum, that you cannot get your school leaving certificate unless you've passed a cycling exam? I give the school 2 years.
I would love that, but right now with the new grading system, like they don't even they're not failing students, they just keep on moving them on, right?
Yeah.
But it would be ideal that a child would have a brevet, just like they go lifeguarding, or swimming, so they get a certificate.
Yes.
They've learned a skill.
So what about when the kids then leave school and start training to become a driver, and they haven't been cyclists, how can we change the driving test so that motorists know what the danger is with cyclists?
Yeah, and especially nowadays, because we have so many computer-generated technical, what do they call it now? Where you're actually sitting in a computer.
Or virtual reality.
Virtual reality.
Like you can learn to ride a bike like you're learning to drive a space rocket.
And same for driving schools, because we have all of these modules. They actually come in a big container from BCIT. And they go over the province. They teach workers to learn how to do a loader, or other heavy machinery. We can do the same with cars. We can do the same with bikes. So they actually are in a virtual reality, and they get all the tests. We do the same for pilots.
So how would it be if, as part of the driving test, there's a cycling test thrown in at the same time? In order to get your driver's license, you've got to be able to be sufficiently competent cyclist, because then your empathy starts. If you're a motorist and you've got nothing, you never tuned into what cyclists are all about, you don't know what's going on. But if you've been a cyclist, you've got empathy going on, you can feel what the cyclist feels. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So then this next image here, no, I have the next one, I'm going back to this one here. What does this one tell you now?
Yeah. Wow, this brings back memories, because we used to have cargo bikes in Holland, and lots of kids got to school this way. Wow. Kindergarten and the first grades of elementary school. So, and nowadays this has made such a comeback, and there are so many great manufacturers, small manufacturers, that make cargo bikes both on the island and in North America in general. I mean, everybody in Copenhagen these days, this is not when I was there, but nowadays in Copenhagen, lots of people, young people, ride with a cargo bike. Like some of them have them in front.
I haven't got the image here, but I read that in Copenhagen there are 40,000 cargo bikes.
Oh, yeah.
And in the Nanaimo, maybe there are 44?
Oh, no.
Less than,
probably under 10 now.
Under 10?
Yes.
Whoa.
Yeah. But, and it's amazing how easy they are to ride. Yeah. And how much you can take with them. Yeah. Other than kids, and how many goods. There's a lot of small companies now, especially in Victoria, that actually use cargo bikes to pedal business with, or to do deliveries.
Do you know Tony from Tony's Trailers in Mill Bay?
Yeah.
I haven't got a photo of Tony, but Tony must be in his 80s, right?
Tony is just in his 80s now.
He actually cycled in the Tour de France in the 1950s, and he makes these incredible trailers where the electric drive is on the trailer itself, right?
Correct.
So the trailer will push you along as a cyclist, right?
I knew Tony in 1980 and 81 and 82, and also when I was a competitive cyclist, him and his wife. Yeah. And then I hadn't seen him. I went to see him this summer for the first time in over 30 odd years, 35 years. And he recognized me. I recognized him right away.
Whoa, that's great.
And because we went back to when he actually had a bike manufacturing company called CBS, Canadian. Yeah.
But if you Google, if you Google Tony's Trailers, you'll go straight to it, because we know otherwise.
Straight to it,
And so let me move on, because we've got 5 minutes left here. Another sort of cargo bike, right?
Yep. Another center. So these are very popular now, also in Victoria. Yeah. And what we hope that they would, start to develop here, that people will take the opportunity to do businesses and do deliveries. Yeah. There are some bakeries that do deliveries, some of luncheon places that do delivery like that. Yeah. Now, obviously, Nanaimo is a little hillier than
Well, we'll come to that, because there's two options. There's ride sharing with the bike sharing, like this. And if I move right along here, what's this?
E-bikes.
Exactly.
So there you go. And that's what's happening now, is that we're getting more cargo bikes that are e-bike driven.
You and I probably know, there's a little secret, and some viewers will know this, that if you've tried an e-bike, normally as a cyclist, you pedal up a hill, you know that your muscles are going to work, you're going to be standing on the pedals and you're going to be puffed. With an e-bike, you're cruising along, you switch on the e-drive, and you sail up that hill and you destroy gravity, right?
Yeah, you destroy gravity.
And
this is just fantastic. And especially, our demographics are changing. Yeah. I mean, you and I have changed a little bit.
I haven't noticed.
but especially when you just go, if you look at the RDN.
Well, if you take an e-bike and a tricycle, so that's a big future. Yeah. And when I give talks, I'll ask people how many have been on an e-bike, and very few hands go up. But I say, look, everyone, go to a bike shop, ask to do a road trial of an e-bike, and take it to a hill and experience for yourself what an astonishing thing it is, that hills disappear entirely, right?
Hills disappears, and certain distances, are easier to cover. Yeah. And people get still a great workout, through them. In our regional district, we got 150,000 people We are moving from about 35,000 of people over 65 to about 62,000 in the next 7 years.
Yeah, and we're going to lose our balance and stability to some point. But if a tricycle, we can keep going longer, right?
Yeah, and so it's you know, like with that influx of people over the age of 65, we're going to go 1/3 of our population is going to be over 60, 65.
Yeah.
Here's an opportunity still to be active and still to move around without having to use the car.
Well, we need to wrap up in a minute. One final idea to throw in, which I know that some viewers will like and some viewers be controversial. I personally would like to see the whole ENN railway become a bikeway all the way.
And certain districts have worked on that.
Yeah.
There are some trail sections, other than this section that we have along the highway here and the trail. In Coombs, at the end of next month, the Coombs section between Parksville and Coombs, it's a 7-kilometer stretch, will be opened. It will be officially opened in the springtime, but it actually will be open for cyclists, pedestrians.
So let me finish by getting personal. You have cycled around the whole world.
Yes, I have. Yes.
A few years ago, I think.
About 40 years ago.
But let's wind up. What are your abiding memories of cycling around the world 40 years ago? What flashes through your memory and of that? That's amazing.
Oh, I have.
Were you alone or were you with friends?
No, I started out with a British couple because we had sort of the idea together.
Yeah.
They packed it in by the time we got to Iran, was then still called Persia.
You went. Tell me the route briefly. Which route?
So we went all through Europe. I started in Amsterdam. They started in from London.
Yeah.
You know, like France, Germany. You know, like sections, Switzerland.
Yeah.
And then all through Italy, Greece, and then I went into Turkey and then called Persia. You know, soon to be called Iran.
I've been through there myself, right?
And then Afghanistan, Pakistan.
Over the Khyber Pass.
Yeah,
all through India.
Afghanistan, Pakistan. And at that point, that I was hitting the Khyber Pass, the Russians were falling in.
Yeah.
Were running into Afghanistan, and so I cycled really fast and got across the border, and then got into India. And I was in India for about 6, 8 months.
This is going to have to be a tale that gets told because you went round because we got wrap-up time here, and I know you went. Who else around South America probably as well, and all over the place, right?
Like there's so much. This
has been our first episode of Change the World. If you like the way we're thinking, tune in this time next week. And I'll be having other guests talking about big, bold ideas for addressing poverty, for addressing the housing crisis, for protecting forestry, for new ways of farming, new ways of building an economy. And you can find us on Facebook. If you just go to Facebook and put in Change the World and look around, you'll hopefully find us there. And we'll hopefully have a website up called changetheworld.community. My name's Guy Dauncey. Thanks for joining us, and join us again next week. And Leo, thank you very much.
Thank you.